Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. If you are just tuning in, we just finished going over the AP Top 25 preseason poll that dropped earlier today, went over what I agreed with and what I disagreed with. We also, earlier on in the show, talked about the rookie quarterback predictions, the first round rookie quarterback performances, from the first week of the preseason. All six of them played. All six of them did pretty solid, which was very impressive for me to see. And of course, with the Olympics wrapping up, we did a quick U.S. recap. All the big moments from the U.S. Going over the Olympics, where they tied for the most gold medals with China with 40 and took the total medal tally by a huge margin, 126 total medals for the United States. But in this segment, we're going to move into the world of the NFL. We're talking about the Tennessee Titans. We're going to take a look at their offseason, give them a grade, take a look at their draft, their free agency, their trades, anything, head coaching moves, anything that they might have done this offseason to see where we can put them as far as a grade goes. But before we get into that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube at the GSMC Sports Network channel, you can hit that super chat button. It should be right next to the chat option. If you do either of those, leave a message. That message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Monday afternoon. But like I was saying, in this segment here, we're going to turn our attention back to the NFL, take a look at the Tennessee Titans. And coming off of the college football talk, what better place to start than the draft? The Titans did not have the greatest draft. Now, I like the pick of J.C. Latham with their seventh overall pick in the first round. They grab J.C. Latham out of Alabama, the offensive tackle, big man, massive man, behemoth of a guy. He comes in from Alabama. He's going to switch over from right tackle to left tackle, be that blindside protector for Will Levis. It's going to be an interesting move. This was a deep offensive line class, and the top ones had already gone off the board at this point. J.C. Latham was a really highly touted prospect. Now, do I think he was the best one out there? No, but that doesn't mean he's not good. He was still graded, first round grade for me. Top 10 was kind of pushing it. I don't have my mock draft up, but I believe I had him go somewhere around 15 or so. But J.C. Latham should be and could be, with how big he is, a huge piece of a much improved offensive line from the Titans, something that was one of their biggest weaknesses. The only other big part of their draft, T'Vondre Sweat out of Texas, the big defensive tackle, should help with the pass rush. Again, the defense got a big lift from the draft, as well as other things. The rest of their picks, those were the first two rounds. They had no third round pick. The fourth, fifth, they had a fourth, fifth, a sixth, and two seventh. Those guys we have to watch in the preseason. I don't expect many of them to make a big splash. Maybe Jaquan Jackson, the wide receiver out of Tulane that they picked in the sixth round, with the wide receiver depth that they have on that team. But they did recently go and fill that out after the draft, so I'm not sure exactly where his standing is. But we will have to see as far as the other Titans rookies go. The draft wasn't the greatest, but I do see a lot of upside in it. I think J.C. Latham has the ability to be the second best, I should say, tackle in this draft class. T'Vondre Sweat has the upside to be the best defensive tackle in the draft class, I think. But we will see where they pan out in their NFL careers. As far as the rest of free agency goes, I'll start off with one of the biggest change, and this is kind of a passing of the torch, a new era for the Titans, right? Mike Vrabel is gone. New head coach. They bring in Callahan from the Bengals. He was the offensive coordinator, over there. He didn't call plays, but lots of glowing reviews for him. Mike Vrabel is gone. Ryan Tannehill is gone. And maybe biggest and most importantly, Derrick Henry is gone. To replace Derrick Henry, they bring in Tony Pollard. They already have Tyjae Spears, who looked really explosive in his rookie season. Tyjae Spears is a guy that I think, especially splitting time with Tony Pollard, which is what it looks like he's going to do, could be a huge asset for the Titans. You take a look at what Tony Pollard's able to do when he isn't the lead back, the guy that gets all of the carries. It's so much more impressive than, obviously just the one season he just had. The Cowboys felt comfortable enough with him in a split share role to make him the lead back. But we saw how that goes. He is now a member of the Tennessee Titans. Outside of that, I mentioned the offensive line with J.C. Latham. They bring in center Lloyd Cushenberry. Lloyd Cushenberry was one of the best free agent centers in the entire league. They bring him in, they shore up the offensive line. I was very, very impressed by what they did, especially to address the offensive line to help protect now second-year quarterback Will Levis. The weapons for Will Levis, we kind of talked about as well. They obviously had DeAndre Hopkins. He's injured right now, probably will be back for week 1 or 2, from what it sounds like, week 3 or 4 at the latest. But outside of him, it was kind of a weak class. Nick Westbrook-Akine was one of their best receivers. They went out and they had a mission to fix that. They go out and they sign Calvin Ridley, a 4-year, $92 million deal for Calvin Ridley after one of his down seasons, which still was over 1,000 yards, which for a down season is a pretty good season. Calvin Ridley should be able to bounce back to form opposite of DeAndre Hopkins, and he's going to get a little less attention. It should be pretty good for him. They also bring in one of the best slot receivers, maybe the best wide receiver 3 in the entire league, in Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd coming to the Titans, I should say, from the Bengals, rejoining with his offensive coordinator, now the head coach over with the Titans, should be a pretty great wide receiver core. They obviously still have first-round pick from a couple years ago, Treylon Burks, as a wide receiver as well. Chiggy Okonkwo at tight end. This is an offense that has all the weapons it needs to go. It all relies on Will Levis. And we saw some good and we saw some bad from Will Levis. We saw him throw a 4-touchdown game. We saw him come back from 14 points in less than 2 minutes. We also saw him be really, really bad at football. So we don't know what kind of Will Levis we're going to get. It's very important for the Titans' success this season to get the good Will Levis, obviously. Outside of that, on defense, I really liked their moves, especially in the secondary. The Titans went out and they traded for L'Jarius Sneed, who was one of the best cornerbacks in football last season. Signed him to a 4-year, $76 million deal. They also brought in Chidobe Awuzie, 3 years, $36 million, to shore up that defense, a defense that was pretty bad. Now they've went out and fixed that. It's much better. They also bring in Jamal Adams. They have Amani Hooker. It's a much better looking defense on paper. They still have Jeffrey Simmons, who is an absolute monster. They brought Tavondre Sweat in to be that big run stopper guy from the draft. Sebastian Joseph Day is not my favorite guy out opposite of those two, but that is a big, big front three. If you play base 3-4 defense, that is a huge. You just go on size alone. That's a terrifying line to go up against. The linebacker core could be better. They still have Harold Landry, who's pretty good. Kenneth Murray is they lose Al-Shaair, which is a little worrying, but outside of the linebacker core, the defense looks pretty good. I really like what they did in this offseason. They went 6-11 last year, though. So remember, improvements are improvements from a 6-11 team. I do like what they did. I thought they did a really good job with this offseason. I'm going to go ahead and give them a B+ for what they did this offseason. They shored up a lot of their holes. The defense, the secondary especially, looks a lot better. They went and got the offensive line fixed. You win in the trenches, right? Now, we have to see, it's still a bad offensive line. You bring in one piece that's going to be good. He goes down with injury, though, so we don't know when he'll be back. Hopefully, it's not too long. J.C. Latham, if he can come in and be an effective tackle in the NFL should be huge for them. But the offensive line is still a question mark, and I'm leaning towards not great still for them. The linebacker core is not great, but the secondary is shored up, and they have all the weapons. So if Will Levis can continue to develop and not be a 50-50 guy, this team has the chance to surprise some people. But we'll find out exactly what I have them doing. If I have them going over or under the Vegas line of 6.5 games in our next segment. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to go over their schedule, all 17 games, all 18 weeks, give him a preview of the Titans 2024 season and a prediction for their record. So stick around for that. We'll be right back here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. If you are just tuning in, we just finished going over the Titans offseason. I gave them a B+. They did a great job shoring up the defense, positions of need, the offensive line, surrounding a team that, in theory, could be successful around Will Levis. In this segment, though, we're going to take a look at their record. We're going to give them a record prediction, go through all 17 games, all 18 weeks, see if they have them making the playoffs in a tough AFC. But before we get into that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net, or if you are on YouTube, you can use the super chat, super thanks option. Either way, if you leave a message, that message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Monday afternoon. But like I was saying, we are going to finish off our show today here, taking a look at the season preview for the Tennessee Titans. Like we've done with everyone else, we're going to take a look at this schedule. Done the Jaguars and the Colts at the tail end of last week. This is a much tougher schedule than it was last season, a season where the Titans went 6-11. And while they did make improvements this offseason, like we just talked about in the last segment, I don't know if the improvements are drastic enough to make too much of a dent in it. This year, they have to go up against playoff teams and much improved teams such as the Jets, the Packers, the Dolphins. This division is going to be much better than it was last year as well if everyone stays healthy. Same thing with the Bills, the Lions. They have to take on the Texans twice. The Bengals are going to be much better. This is a much tougher team. This is a much tougher schedule than it was last year. So it's not going to be easy for the Titans, but they have the talent. If they had the same schedule as last year, I think they would definitely be a better team. But that's not the case. A week 5 bye also doesn't help too much for a team that has a couple of key contributors that are a little bit older. Down the stretch, it might hurt them. But we'll get right into it. Week 1, they take on Caleb Williams and the Bears on the road. Heading into Chicago, that is not an environment for the first NFL game of the career of Caleb Williams. After we saw him in the preseason, that stadium, he's going to be more than sold out. People will be climbing up the stadium, scaling it to see Caleb Williams play his first game in Chicago. That is not a good scene for the Titans to go into. They lose that game. The Bears take week 1 of the season. The Titans fall to 0-1. Week 2, they take on Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. Not an easy schedule there. They lose that game as well, falling to a quick 0-2 on the year. In week 3, they take on Jordan Love and the Packers, the new $55 million man. Jordan Love takes the win here on the road against the Titans. They fall to 0-3. Week 4 against Week 4 against the Dolphins on the road in Miami. Not an easy place to play in the heat of the summer there. The sun will bake the Titans. I think the Dolphins win this game. They fall to 0-4 heading into their bye week. A much needed bye week. Still a little bit of an early placement, but a nice place to be. 4 straight losses is not going to look good on this new coaching staff. But week 5, taking on the Colts at home, off of a bye week. The players have just gone through a players only meeting or something along those lines. They come out fired up. They win their first game of the season against the Colts in a division game, a division rivalry there for you. The Titans win their first game of the year, improve to 1-4. Week 7 against the Bills up in Buffalo. Not an easy matchup for anyone. The Titans are no exception. The Bills take care of business here. Felling the Titans, they fall to 1-5. Doesn't get any easier from there, folks. They take on the Lions, the defending NFC runner-ups. The Lions win this game as well. Also in Detroit, the Titans fall to 1-6 through halfway through the season. Not a good point for where they are, but this has been a brutal stretch of schedule for them. It lightens up definitely a little bit in the back half, where in the front half they had to play all but 3 of the teams they played were playoff teams. And if you want to count the Jets as a playoff team because of the improvements that they have, the Jets are in there as well. That's the majority of their games were against last year's playoff teams. Down the stretch here, they go against teams that were picking in the top 10 in the Patriots and the Chargers and the Commanders. And this is a much easier stretch. So this is where they need to collect the wins, which is why I say having that week 5 bye hurts, because being able to prepare for a schedule down the stretch when you're going up against easier teams, I will say, it's not ideal. But week 9, taking on the New England Patriots, I do have them losing this game. They've come off back-to-back losses against the Bills and the Lions. This is a game that I think they have to win if they want to turn their season around, but I don't think they get it done. I think the Patriots win this game. The Colts fall to 1-7. Then they take on the Chargers on the road, and I do think they turn it around here, get a win against the Chargers and Justin Herbert, but not an easy game at all. Improved to 2-7 on the year. Week 11 against the Vikings. The Vikings have J.J. McCarthy in at this point. We saw what he did this preseason. I'm taking the Vikings to win this game against the Titans. The Titans fall to 2-8 on the year. Week 12 on the road against the Texans. C.J. Stroud takes care of business. They beat the Titans here. Hopefully they're not wearing the Houston Oilers stuff again. Against the Texans, but they fall to 2-9 on the year. Week 13 against Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. I think the Commanders win this game as well. It's nothing against the Titans. I don't think the schedule lines up very well for them. The Commanders win this game. They fall to 2-10 on the year. Then they get the Jaguars, division matchup. I think they take this one. A much-needed win for them, improving to 3-10. Doesn't get easy, though. Their last couple games, they get the Bengals, Colts, Jags, and Texans. 3 division games and the Bengals. Not a great spot to be in. But against the Bengals, week 15, Joe Burrow wins this game. We'll see if they can go against the division where anything can happen. They fall to 3-11 through 15 weeks. Then they get the Colts on the road. And as much as I want to give them a win, I think Anthony Richardson is going to be too much for that defensive line to handle. I love the pass rush of the Colts. I think the Colts win this game as well. They fall to 3-12. Then they get the Jaguars on the road in Duval County. I think the Titans fall once again. Fall to 3-13, not the place that they want to be. Last week of the season against the Texans. I do think they win this game, but I think that's a lot because the Texans aren't playing their starters right now. But they finish the season off at 4-13. Obviously, they miss out on the playoffs. I do have them getting, right now, They are the number 1 pick in the NFL. Now, this was a little bit harsh on the Titans, I will say. I think that 4-13 is definitely their floor, while their ceiling is probably somewhere around 7 to 8 wins. This is a team that, if all the puzzle pieces click, if Callahan is able to come in and be the head coach that he is touted to be, it could turn it around. That's what it comes down to. I don't love the coaching hire. He's never called plays in his life, and he was an offensive coordinator, so I don't really know what he did over there in with the Bengals. So I'm not too convinced about the head coaching hire. So I have them go 4-13. But there is a world where it's a great hire, knocks it out of the park, and they compete to win, to go 500 basically. That's the bad and the good with this Tennessee Titans team. But anyway, let me know what you thought of anything we talked about in today's show. I appreciate all of you guys taking time out of your day to sit down, talk some sports with me here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I've been your host, Jeremy Lapidus. I'll see you same time, same place tomorrow. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you then. You guys have a good one. Bye-bye.